Neon Echoes. Chapter 1, The Dreamweaver's Sanctuary. The city of Viridia Prime was a giant, breathing machine, always humming, always glowing. It stretched out under a sky that was never quite dark, always lit by the endless neon signs and the faint, dusty glow of the orbital platforms. These platforms, like distant, silent sentinels, occasionally dropped shimmering lines of light, cargo descending to the lower levels, or sometimes, just the faint shimmer of atmospheric processors working tirelessly. Rain was a constant companion here, a soft, rhythmic patter against the synth-glass windows, washing the chrome towers and the grimy alleyways alike. It smelled of ozone, damp concrete, and something vaguely metallic, like old circuits humming quietly in the damp air. Our story begins in the mid-levels, a sprawling mess of connected buildings, sky bridges, and flickering holographic advertisements. This wasn't the sparkling, clean apex, where the city's elite lived in climate-controlled bubbles, their towers piercing the perpetual haze, reflecting only the filtered light of their own power. Nor was it the deep, dark underbelly, where the forgotten ones scraped by in the perpetual gloom, the air thick with the tang of recycled waste and the low thrum of geothermal vents. The mid-levels were for everyone else, the workers, the dreamers, the ones who kept the gears turning, a vibrant, chaotic tapestry of life. Ilara lived in a small, cozy apartment tucked away in a block known as the Data Weave. Her building was like a stack of mismatched boxes, each one added over the years, leaning on the next, a patchwork of hastily constructed extensions and repurposed industrial modules. Its exterior was a canvas of faded murals, depicting forgotten heroes and faded corporate logos, and flickering, half-dead LED strips that buzzed softly in the damp air. The constant hum of the city outside was like a quiet song, a low, steady bass note, broken only by the whoosh of mag cars zipping by on the sky lanes, their anti-grav engines whistling faintly, and the distant, almost musical clatter of automated delivery drones, their small propellers whirring as they navigated the crowded air. Ilara wasn't a corporate drone, trapped in a cubicle, nor was she a street tough, navigating the shadows. She was a dream weaver, a rare kind of artist in Viridia Prime. She didn't paint on canvas or sculpt with clay, materials that were now precious relics. She worked with memories, with the very fabric of people's inner worlds. In a city where personal data was constantly collected, streamed, archived, and sometimes even reshaped by powerful companies like Omnicorp, memories could get jumbled, broken, or even disappear completely. Ilara specialized in finding these lost pieces, carefully putting them back together for those who felt like a part of themselves was missing, a void in their own story. Her apartment was a reflection of her unique job, a blend of old and new. Soft, swirling holographic patterns, like colorful clouds of thought or shimmering neural pathways, drifted across the walls, projected from a small, humming device in the corner. Shelves were packed with old data chips, their casings worn smooth by countless hands, some so ancient they felt warm to the touch, next to sleek, modern Neuralink devices, their surfaces cool and smooth. The air always had a faint scent of something sweet, like burnt sugar, mixed with the clean, sharp smell of activated circuits and a hint of synthetic tea. Ilara herself was practical, her style a quiet rebellion against the city's flashy trends. She wore dark, comfortable clothes made of smart fabric that seemed to change color slightly with the light, adapting to the ambient glow. Little threads woven into her sleeves, almost imperceptible at first glance, glowed with a soft, steady blue, pulsing gently with her own thoughts, a direct connection to her neural activity. Her fingers, long and nimble, had tiny microsensors on the tips that glowed a soft green when she was deep in thought, connecting with a client's mind, or tracing patterns on her data slate. Her eyes, a deep, calm shade of violet, held a quiet wisdom, like someone who had seen many hidden worlds and understood their fragile nature. Tonight, the rain outside was a gentle drum against her reinforced window, blurring the city's neon lights into long, blurry streaks of color, like a painter's abstract masterpiece. Ilara was getting ready for a new client, a woman named Kale. Kale's first message had been short, almost too simple, delivered through a secure, untraceable channel, lost something important. Need to find it. Urgent. These kinds of requests weren't new, but there was a strange, desperate energy in Cale's encrypted message that caught Ilara's attention, a feeling of deep unease beneath the simple words. Ilara made herself a warm cup of nutrient broth, its faint, earthy smell filling the small space, a comforting aroma in the digital hum. It was a standard blend, but she added a pinch of dried synth herbs for a hint of something more natural. Her main tool, a slim data slate, lay waiting on her workbench, its polished surface reflecting the holographic swirls, ready for Cale's mental imprint. Next to it was a small, well-worn book, its pages made of real paper, a relic from a time long past, its spine cracked and its corners soft. Ilara often found comfort in its physical presence, the texture of the paper, the faint smell of aged pulp, a stark contrast to the fleeting nature of her digital world. It was filled with her own handwritten notes, observations on how memories work, and little sketches of the intricate mindscapes she explored. The soft chime of her doorknob broke the quiet, a gentle, almost apologetic tone. Cale was here. Ilara took a slow, deep breath, the scent of the broth filling her lungs, grounding her. She was about to step into another person's inner world, to sift through the fragments of their consciousness, and maybe, just maybe, uncover a truth they had long forgotten. In Viridia Prime, memories were like currency, more valuable than credits, and Ilara was one of its most skilled weavers, entrusted with the most precious of human possessions. Chapter 2, A Fragmented Soul. Cale wasn't what Ilara expected. She wasn't a high-powered executive looking to boost her performance by recalling every detail of a forgotten meeting, nor was she a grieving citizen trying to relive a lost moment with a loved one. Cale looked young, maybe in her early 20s, but her face held a tired look that seemed too heavy for her age, a subtle weariness etched around her eyes. Her clothes were simple, dark techwear, a common sight in the mid-levels, designed for practicality and blending in, but they looked a bit worn, almost faded, with a faint sheen of dust on the shoulders and a slight fray at the cuffs. Her eyes, a dull gray, moved quickly around Ilara's apartment, taking in the glowing displays and ancient tech with a mix of worry and a little bit of wonder, as if she wasn't quite sure what to make of it all. "Ilara?" she asked, her voice soft, almost a whisper, as if afraid someone might be listening, even within the confines of the apartment. "That's me," Ilara replied, her voice calm and steady, designed to make people feel safe and at ease. "Please, come in. Have a seat." She pointed to a comfortable-looking synth-leather armchair across from her workbench, its surface slightly worn but inviting. Cale sat down, her posture stiff, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Ilara activated a privacy field, a soft, shimmering light that surrounded the seating area, subtly dampening outside sounds and blocking any data snoopers or unwanted digital eyes. It was a normal safety step, a standard precaution in Viridia Prime, but Cale visibly relaxed, a long sigh escaping her lips, her shoulders dropping slightly. "Thank you," she said, running a hand through her short, dark hair, a nervous gesture. This is harder than I thought." "Memory work often is," Ilara said gently, her voice empathetic. "Tell me, what brings you to a dream weaver?" She leaned back slightly, her violet eyes patiently observing Cale, waiting for her to find the words. Cale paused, her gaze fixed on a swirling, colorful display on the wall, a representation of a healthy, active mindscape. I'm missing something. A chunk of time. About 2 months, from last year. It's not just hazy, it's gone. Like a deleted file, but worse. It's like it was never there to begin with. She spoke slowly, carefully, as if trying to grasp the elusive concept herself. "And you think it was taken on purpose?" Ilara asked, her voice even, betraying no judgment. Intentional memory removal was a serious matter, often linked to corporate secrets, political maneuvering, or darker manipulations that the public rarely heard about. "I don't know," Kale admitted, her voice filled with frustration, a hint of desperation creeping in. I feel this empty space. A blank spot where something important should be. It's like a phantom limb, you know. You can't see it, but you feel its absence. And lately, I've been seeing flashes. Images. Sounds. But they don't connect. They're like static on a broken screen, just quick blips of noise and light. Elara nodded, her violet eyes studying Kale, observing the subtle tension in her jaw, the way her fingers fidgeted. Can you describe these flashes in more detail? A symbol, Kale said, her brow furrowing in thought, trying to recall the fleeting images. A stylized clock, but it's dripping light. Like the hands are melting, or something. And a sound. A low, pulsing hum, like a faulty power generator, or a distant machine struggling to run. And a word, sometimes. It just echoes in my head. Chrononet. Elara's microsensors on her fingertips pulsed faintly, a subtle reaction to the name. Chrononet. The most powerful corporation in Viridia Prime, controllers of the city's main data grid, architects of its collective stream, the huge public record of all events, all information. They were known for their efficiency, their widespread power, their pervasive influence, and their complete, almost absolute control over information. The idea of them being involved in intentional memory removal was unsettling, disturbing even, but not entirely surprising given their reach. Chrononet, Elara repeated softly, testing the name on her tongue, letting it hang in the air between them. That's a significant detail, Kale. A very significant one. I work for them, Kale said, her voice barely audible, a whisper of shame or fear. Or, I did. I'm on extended leave now. Medical leave. Stress-related. She gave a hollow, bitter laugh. They said I was overwhelmed. But I think they did something. I think they took it. Elara leaned forward, her expression serious, her gaze unwavering. If Chrononet is involved, this isn't a simple retrieval, Kale. Their security systems are legendary. Their data walls are almost impossible to break through. They guard their secrets fiercely. I know, Kale said, her gaze meeting Elara's, a flicker of desperation in her dull gray eyes, now suddenly brighter with a desperate plea. But I have to know. I can't live with this empty space. It's like a part of me is gone, and I don't even know what it was. It's driving me crazy. Elara thought about it, the risks weighing heavily in her mind. The potential danger was high. Going against Chrononet was a direct challenge to their power, and they didn't tolerate such challenges. They were known for making problems disappear, quietly and efficiently. But the desperation in Kale's voice, the raw vulnerability, spoke to Elara's own quiet fight against the city's constant control, the pervasive influence of the corporations. She understood the deep human need for truth, for one's own story, for the integrity of one's mind. All right, Elara said, her voice firm, making her decision. We'll go ahead. But you need to understand the risks, Kale. This could be dangerous. For both of us. Chrononet doesn't play fair. Kale nodded, a flicker of strength replacing the weariness in her eyes, a newfound resolve. I understand. Just, help me remember. Please. Elara reached for a Neuralink headset, its sleek, shiny surface reflecting the soft glow of her data slate, a piece of technology that felt both alien and intimately familiar. This will be a deep dive, Kale. We'll be entering your subconscious, navigating the raw data of your mind. It won't be like watching a video. It will be an experience. You'll feel things, see things, as if you're truly there. Kale swallowed hard, a visible gulp, but nodded again, her resolve holding. Ilara placed the headset gently over Kale's temples, adjusting the delicate sensors, ensuring a perfect fit. As she activated the connection, the green glow of her fingers grew brighter, blending with the faint, internal light of the headset, a soft pulse of energy. The holographic displays in her apartment swirled, showing the beginning of the neural connection, a bridge forming between two minds, two stories, in the heart of Viridia Prime. Outside, the rain continued to fall, a steady, rhythmic hum, as Ilara prepared to dive into the broken story of Kale's lost memory. Chapter 3, Journey into the Mindscape. The shift was seamless, yet jarring. One moment, Ilara was in her apartment, the scent of nutrient broth still lingering, the next, she was adrift in a vast, shimmering space. This was Kale's mind, rendered not as abstract data or cold code, but as a living, breathing landscape. Memories appeared as bright, crystal-like structures, each one a unique piece of her life, shimmering with an inner light. Happy moments glowed with warm, golden light, like sunlit fields. Sad ones pulsed with a deep, blue sadness, like shadowed lakes. Everyday events were like gentle, flowing streams, murmuring softly, while important moments stood as tall, bright mountains, their peaks piercing the shimmering sky of her consciousness. Ilara, tethered to Kale's consciousness by the neural link, felt Kale's feelings as faint echoes within her own mind, a distant hum of worry, a quick spark of curiosity, a fleeting wave of unease. She moved through this inner world with the ease of an experienced diver, her own neural signature a faint, guiding light, a beacon in the vastness. Her glowing threads, still pulsing on her physical sleeves, pulsed in time with the quiet energy of Kale's thoughts, a subtle dance of shared consciousness, a silent language understood only by them. She guided them towards the period Kale had pointed out, a huge, dark gap in the otherwise vibrant landscape. This was the void, the missing 2 months. As they got closer, the air grew heavy, the light around them dimming, becoming oppressive. It wasn't empty, it was filled with a thick, heavy static, like a dense fog made of corrupted data, swirling and churning. Within this fog, faint, distorted whispers echoed, the same broken hum Kale had described, now a little clearer, a low, grating sound that seemed to vibrate in their very essence. This is it, Kale's mental voice resonated, tinged with a deep unease, almost a shiver of fear. The blank space. It feels wrong. Ilara extended a hand, her microsensors glowing brighter, reaching into the swirling static. She could feel the resistance, a powerful, unseen force pushing back against their entry. It was like trying to walk through a wall of dense, digital concrete, unyielding and cold. This was no simple error or accidental corruption, it was an active block, a deliberate barrier. Suddenly, a massive, dark wall appeared before them, rising from the static void, its surface a smooth, unbreakable black, absorbing all light. Embedded within it, glowing with a harsh, red light, was the stylized clock symbol Kale had described, dripping light, exactly as she'd seen it, its hands frozen, yet seeming to melt into the darkness. This was Chrononet's mark, a digital guard protecting the erased memories, a sentinel of silence. Their data wall, Ilara's mental voice conveyed, her tone grim, a note of concern in it. Stronger than anything I've found in a personal mindscape before. It's made to not just block, but to actively push back, to deter any intrusion. Kale's worry spiked, a sudden wave of panic. Can you get through it? Ilara focused, her neural energy gathering, a concentrated effort of will. She sent out a series of complex bypass codes, intricate algorithms weaving them into the fabric of the data wall. Each line of code was a delicate probe, searching for a weakness, a forgotten back door, a tiny flaw in its vastness. The wall shimmered, resisting her efforts, its red clock eye pulsing with more intensity, pushing back with a silent, huge force, like a giant hand trying to shove them away. It felt like battling a living thing, a digital guardian with its own will, its own malicious intent. The air around them grew colder, the static more aggressive, threatening to fray their neural connection, to pull them apart. Elara felt a sharp jolt, a sudden, retaliatory spike from the wall, designed to confuse and expel them, to send them reeling. She braced herself, drawing on years of experience, anchoring their connection firmly within Kale's core consciousness, a steady anchor in the digital storm. "It's learning," Elara's mental voice warned, her voice strained. "Adapting to my probes. This isn't an automatic defense. There's an active intelligence behind this, an operator, or perhaps even an AI." Just as the pressure became almost too much to bear, a faint, almost unnoticeable ripple passed through the static. It wasn't from Elara, nor from Kale. It was a subtle change, a momentary flicker in the harsh red clock eye, a brief distortion in its malevolent glow. A whisper, not of data, but of pure, unbroken silence, a momentary void in the hum. It was like a brief, perfectly timed pause in a chaotic song, creating a momentary chance, a window of opportunity. "Did you feel that?" Kale's mental voice asked, a tremor of surprise in her tone, a glimmer of hope. "Yes," Elara replied, her violet eyes narrowing, seizing the moment. "An outside interference. A distraction." She immediately grabbed the chance, sending a strong burst of neural energy into the data wall, exploiting the momentary weakness, pushing through the crack that had appeared. The dark wall shuddered, a thin crack appearing in its smooth surface, spreading like a spiderweb. The dripping clock eye flickered, its red glow momentarily dimming, losing its intensity. It was a quick chance, a fleeting moment, but Elara knew it was enough. She pulled Kale's consciousness forward, guiding them through the new crack, deeper into the void, towards the hidden memories. The hum of the broken data loop grew louder, a more distinct, grating sound, but now, beneath it, Elara could almost hear a faint, distant echo of a forgotten truth, a whisper of something real. Chapter 4, Echoes of Truth. Passing through the crack in Chrononet's data wall felt like breaking the surface of a cloudy, still pond, emerging from a suffocating depth. The heavy static began to disappear, dissipating like mist, replaced by a swirling, messy storm of broken memories. These weren't neatly organized like the rest of Kale's mind, they were raw, unprocessed data, like shattered pieces of glass, reflecting distorted images and echoing garbled sounds. This was the lost time, hidden on purpose, fragmented and scattered, but not completely destroyed. Elara and Kale were now in the heart of the suppressed period. The air here vibrated with a low, constant hum, the broken data loop sound becoming clearer, more distinct, a rhythmic thrum that seemed to fill the space. It was the sound of a system struggling to keep an impossible lie going, the digital equivalent of a strained breath. Elara's glowing threads pulsed quickly, absorbing the chaotic data, trying to find a pattern, a clear thread within the digital madness, a coherent narrative amidst the noise. "It's a scramble," Elara's mental voice explained, her tone calm amidst the chaos. "Not erased, but broken up and spread out. A common Chrononet trick. Makes finding it almost impossible without direct mental access, without a Dreamweaver's touch." Among the swirling fragments, they began to see quick, fleeting images. A corporate office, sleek and sterile, all polished chrome and synth glass, but with a subtle, unsettling flicker in the lighting, like a faulty connection. A face, blurry and unclear at first, then sharpening slightly, a man, speaking with an urgent tone, his eyes wide with a desperate plea. A datapad showing complex plans, intricate schematics, its details just out of reach, tantalizingly close. The dripping clock symbol appeared again and again, placed over different scenes, a constant, pervasive mark of Chrononet's power, a digital watermark of control. The clock, Kale's mental voice observed, a growing sense of fear in her tone, mixed with recognition. "It's everywhere. Like a brand." As they went deeper, the fragments grew stronger, more focused, threatening to overwhelm Kale's consciousness with their raw intensity. Elara worked quickly, her fingers, still glowing faintly in the real world, tracing patterns on her data slate, translating the chaotic neural data into a clear story. She was a sculptor of memories, carefully putting back together the shattered pieces of Kale's past, forming a mosaic of truth. Suddenly, a new presence appeared in the data stream. Not aggressive like Chrononet's defenses, but subtle, almost ghost-like. It was a network of faint, interwoven lines of light, moving through the chaotic fragments like silent, glowing currents, guiding them. These were the echoes, the secret group Elara had heard rumors about, individuals who communicated through encrypted, fleeting data bursts, designed to be untraceable by Chrononet's constant surveillance, whispers in the digital wind. The echo's presence acted like a filter, gently sifting through the chaotic data, highlighting key fragments, subtly guiding Elara's focus. They weren't directly talking, but their very presence, their unique data signature, seemed to connect with the hidden truth, resonating with the fragments. It was a silent, digital teamwork, a clandestine alliance. "Someone's helping us," Kale's mental voice realized, a spark of hope in her tone, a glimmer of light in the darkness. "The echoes," Elara confirmed, her focus steady, her resolve strengthening. "They work in the shadows, outside Chrononet's grid. They're showing us a path, a way through the maze." Guided by these unseen currents, Elara began to put the story together. The blurry face became clearer. A fellow Chrononet employee, a man named Reese, his features now distinct, his fear palpable. The urgent tone became a desperate plea, a warning. The complex plans revealed a Project Chronoshift. The shift. Elara's mind raced, connecting the dots. It wasn't just a symbol. It was a hidden layer, a subtle change to the city's collective memory stream. Chrononet wasn't just erasing individual memories, they were subtly changing public perception, rewriting history on a grand scale, altering the very foundation of shared reality. The dripping clock wasn't just a logo, it was a symbol of their absolute control over the very fabric of reality, a constant reminder of their power. The hum of the broken data loop grew louder, a more insistent thrum, but now it was joined by a new sound, a faint, almost hidden pulse, like a heartbeat, rhythmic and urgent. It was Risa's voice, embedded within the fragmented data, a desperate message echoing from the past, a final plea. "Kale. They're changing the public stream. Project Chronoshift, they're rewriting the past, they're making us forget everything." The words were broken, fragmented, but the meaning was terrifyingly clear. Chrononet wasn't just controlling information, they were controlling reality itself, shaping what everyone believed was true. Kale's missing memories weren't just personal, they were a key to uncovering a citywide deception, a massive lie woven into the very fabric of Viridia Prime. As Elara put more fragments back together, the pieces of Kale's lost 2 months began to fit, forming a complete, horrifying picture. Reese had discovered Project Chronoshift, uncovering its true, insidious purpose. He had tried to tell Kale, his trusted colleague, to warn her. Chrononet had stepped in, swift and ruthless, erasing Kale's memory of the encounter and Reese's existence from her mind, making him disappear from her personal history. But Reese, knowing the risks, had hidden a backup, a series of triggers designed to reactivate her memory if she ever sought help, if she ever felt the void. The dripping clock, the distorted hum, these were Reese's breadcrumbs, leading her back to the truth, a desperate trail left for her to follow. The echo's currents grew stronger, pulsing with urgency, guiding Elara towards a final, critical fragment. It was a data log, hidden deep within Kale's subconscious, a copy Reese had managed to implant before his own disappearance, a digital time capsule. It contained proof of Project Chronoshift, a detailed blueprint of their memory manipulation methods, a smoking gun. "We have it," Elara's mental voice resonated, a surge of adrenaline flowing through her, a mix of triumph and dread. The proof. And a way to fight back. But as she reached for the final fragment, the entire memory landscape shuddered violently. The dripping clock symbol flared with a blinding, angry red, pulsing with fury. Chrononet had found their intrusion, their successful break of the data wall. The Silence Protocol was about to be unleashed, not just to block, but to crush, to obliterate any trace of their presence. Elara knew they had moments before they would be thrown out, their connection severed, and the truth buried once more, perhaps forever. They had the key, but escaping with it would be the real challenge, the most dangerous part of their journey. Chapter 5, The Unveiling's Dawn. The memory landscape convulsed, tearing itself apart. The crimson light of Chrononet's dripping clock pulsed fiercely, sending shockwaves of pure data force through Kale's mind, a destructive wave meant to erase everything. The fragments of memory, painstakingly reassembled by Elara, threatened to shatter once more, to dissolve into an irreversible chaos, lost forever. The Silence Protocol wasn't just a digital wall. It was a crushing wave, a mental tsunami designed to obliterate any unauthorized neural activity, to silence all dissent. Hold on. Elara's mental voice urged Kale, her own consciousness bracing against the onslaught, a shield against the digital storm. Her bioluminescent threads flared, a desperate attempt to stabilize their connection, to shield them from the destructive force, to keep the fragile link intact. She could feel the strain on her own neural pathways, a burning sensation behind her eyes, a dull ache in her temples. The echoes, however, surged forward. Their luminous currents, previously subtle and guiding, now wove into a protective net around Elara and Kale, a shimmering barrier of light. They weren't fighting Chrononet's attack head-on, they were redirecting it, absorbing its destructive energy, and channeling it away, like a digital lightning rod, diverting the lethal current. Their presence was a silent, defiant roar against the corporate behemoth, a collective will against overwhelming power. They're creating an exit, Elara realized, a surge of new hope, a desperate chance. The echoes were opening a temporary, unstable portal in the chaotic data stream, a shimmering, ephemeral tear in reality, a backdoor exit from Kale's mindscape. It was risky, highly unstable, flickering in and out of existence, but their only chance, their only way out. Now, Kale. Elara commanded, her mental voice sharp with urgency, focusing all her remaining neural energy on pulling them towards the shimmering, fleeting portal. She could feel the data log, Risa's proof, firmly secured within her own data slate, a precious, dangerous cargo, the truth itself. The expulsion was brutal. One moment, they were hurtling through the digital maelstrom, the next, Elara was back in her apartment, gasping for breath, the familiar scent of ozone and synth tea filling her lungs. The Neuralink headset clattered to her workbench as she tore it off, her hands trembling slightly. Kale, still in the armchair, convulsed, her body racked by tremors, her face pale and slick with sweat, her eyes squeezed shut. Kale. Elara reached for him, steadying her as she slowly came back to herself, her eyes fluttering open. Her eyes, no longer dull, were wide with a mixture of terror and profound understanding, a raw, painful clarity. The void was gone. The memories, though raw and painful, were back, whole and vivid. Reese, she whispered, her voice hoarse, a name spoken aloud for the first time in months. Project Chrono Shift, they're doing it to everyone. They're changing everything. Elara nodded, her own heart pounding, a heavy beat in her chest. Yes. They're rewriting the city's history. Controlling what people remember, what they believe. They're building a new reality, one where they are always right. She looked at her data slate, the small device now glowing with a steady, triumphant blue light, a silent testament to their success. Risa's data log was secure, the truth held within its circuits. The privacy field around them flickered, then dissolved, its soft shimmer fading. The outside world intruded once more, the distant hum of the city, the gentle patter of rain against the window. But now, these familiar sounds carried a new, ominous undertone, a sense of urgency. They had stolen a truth, a dangerous secret, and Chrononet would be coming for it, they would know. Kale slowly sat up, her hands clenching and unclenching, flexing her fingers as if testing their reality. Her breath came in shaky gasps, but her eyes held a new fire. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice stronger now, filled with a desperate resolve. Elara looked at her, her violet eyes filled with a new determination, a quiet strength. "We expose them. We use Risa's datalog to show Viridia Prime what Chrononet is doing. We wake the city up." "But how?" Chrononet controlled the entire public data grid, the news feeds, the information streams. Any attempt to broadcast the truth would be instantly shut down, labeled as a rogue signal or neural corruption, wiped from existence before it could even spread. Their reach was absolute. Just then, her data slate vibrated. Not the usual system alerts, the mundane notifications of city life, but a unique, encrypted ping. It was a message, ephemeral and untraceable, a whisper in the vast data stream, slipping through Chrononet's watchful eyes. Elara opened it, her fingers moving quickly. The message was simple, a single line of text, accompanied by a faint, almost hidden image of a stylized, open hand, reaching out, a symbol of connection and aid. "The echoes are listening. The truth finds a way." It was from the echoes. They knew. They had aided them in the mindscape, and now they were offering more. A network outside Chrononet's control, a channel for the truth to spread, a way to amplify the whispers into a roar. Elara looked at Kale, a grim smile touching her lips, a shared understanding passing between them. "It seems we have allies." Kale looked at the glowing data slate, then back at Elara, a flicker of hope in her gray eyes, a spark ignited in the darkness. "So, what's the plan, Weaver?" Elara stood, her practical clothing feeling less like a uniform and more like armor, ready for a fight. The glowing threads on her sleeves pulsed with a steady, determined rhythm, mirroring the beat of her own heart. "We find a way to amplify the echoes. We unveil Chrononet's shift. We bring the truth to light, no matter the cost." Chapter 6, Whispers in the Rain. The rain outside Elara's apartment had settled into a steady, hypnotic rhythm, a soft curtain of sound that seemed to separate their small sanctuary from the vast, watchful city. Inside, the air crackled with a new kind of energy, a mix of exhaustion, fear, and a burning, quiet resolve. Kale was still pale, but the dullness in her eyes had been replaced by a fierce, almost desperate clarity. She kept flexing her fingers, as if reassuring herself that her own body, her own mind, was truly hers again. "The echoes," Kale murmured, looking at the data slate still glowing faintly in Elara's hand. "You really think they can help us broadcast this?" Elara nodded, carefully setting the data slate down on her workbench. "They're the only ones who can. Chrononet's control over the public data grid is absolute. Any direct attempt from us would be crushed before it even registered. But the echoes. They operate in the blind spots, the forgotten frequencies, the old, analog channels that Chrononet deemed too inefficient to monitor closely." She paused, a thoughtful frown creasing her brow. "They're like ghosts in the machine, leaving faint traces that only others like them can pick up." "So, what do we do now?" Kale asked, her voice a little stronger, a hint of steel entering it. "Just wait for another message?" "No," Elara replied, moving to her small synth kitchen unit. She poured Kale a fresh cup of nutrient broth, its warmth radiating through the ceramic. "We prepare. We study Risa's datalog. We understand exactly what Chrononet has been doing, how deep this chrono shift goes." She handed the cup to Kale, who took it with trembling hands, the warmth a small comfort. "And we wait for the right moment. The echoes are cautious. They won't act until the conditions are perfect, until the signal can truly break through." For the next few days, Elara's small apartment became a hub of quiet, intense activity. The holographic displays, usually showing abstract neural patterns, now projected intricate schematics from RISA's data log. Lines of code, complex data algorithms, and detailed flowcharts of ChronoNet's memory manipulation protocols scrolled across the walls. Kale, despite her exhaustion, devoured the information. She was a former ChronoNet employee, and though her memories of the project had been erased, her underlying knowledge of their systems remained. She could understand the jargon, the technical details, the subtle nuances of their insidious work. "It's worse than I thought," Kale whispered one evening, her face illuminated by the green glow of the data log. She was hunched over the workbench, a stylus in her hand, tracing lines on a projected diagram. "They're not just erasing events. They're subtly altering emotional responses to past events. Making people feel apathy where there should be outrage, or contentment where there should be questioning." She looked up at Alara, her eyes wide with horror. "They're not just rewriting history, they're rewriting feelings about history." Alara felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. This was far more sinister than simple censorship. This was psychological warfare on a citywide scale. "That explains the pervasive calm," Alara mused, looking out her window at the endless neon glow. "The way people just accept things. The lack of true dissent in the mid-levels, even with all the hardship. They ate simple meals, nutrient paste flavored with synthetic spices, thin sheets of protein synth bread, and cups of warm, slightly bitter synth coffee. The food was functional, designed for efficiency, not pleasure, but it sustained them." The constant hum of the city outside was a reminder of the millions of minds they hoped to awaken, minds lulled into a false sense of security by ChronoNet's unseen hand. During their quiet hours, Alara would sometimes read from her old, paper-bound book, its pages crinkling softly. Kale, initially curious, found herself drawn to the physical object, the contrast to her digital world. Alara would read passages about the nature of memory, the importance of truth, the resilience of the human spirit. Her voice was low and calm, a soothing counterpoint to the buzzing city outside, and Kale found herself drifting into a light, restless sleep, the words weaving through her dreams. Days blurred into nights, marked only by the shifting intensity of the neon outside and the gentle patter of the rain. They learned that Project ChronoShift operated on a cyclical basis, subtle adjustments made every few weeks, like a constant, low-frequency hum beneath the city's consciousness. RISA's datalog detailed the precise timing of these shifts, the vulnerabilities in ChronoNet's system during those brief windows. Then, another encrypted ping. This time, it wasn't just a single line. It was a complex data packet, a series of coordinates, frequencies, and a short message: "The next shift begins at 3 o'clock. The network is ready. Amplify." Alara felt a surge of adrenaline, cold and sharp. This was it. The echoes were giving them their window. "Tonight," Alara said, her voice quiet but firm, looking at Kale. "We make our move." Kale's gray eyes met hers, no longer dull, but burning with a fierce determination. "I'm ready, Weaver." As the clock on Alara's data slate ticked closer to 3 o'clock, the rain outside seemed to intensify, a drumming crescendo on the synthglass. They prepared their equipment, Alara's Neuralink devices, a portable, high-frequency broadcast amplifier she'd modified from old tech, and the data slate with RISA's precious log. They dressed in dark, practical clothing, blending into the shadows of the mid-levels. Alara's bioluminescent threads pulsed with a steady, determined rhythm, a silent heartbeat against the coming storm. They slipped out of the apartment, into the rain-slicked sky lanes. The city was quieter at this hour, the mag cars fewer, the holographic ads still pulsing, but with a more subdued glow. The air was cool and damp, carrying the familiar scent of ozone and wet concrete. They moved like shadows, navigating the labyrinthine sky bridges, their footsteps almost silent on the synth pavement. Their destination was an old, abandoned comms tower, a relic from before ChronoNet's complete takeover, hidden deep within a forgotten sector of the mid-levels. It was a crumbling spire of rust-stained metal and cracked synth concrete, overgrown with bioluminescent moss that glowed faintly in the perpetual twilight. The echoes had reactivated its ancient broadcast capabilities, creating a temporary, untraceable node. As they ascended the winding, creaking stairs of the tower, the city spread out beneath them, an endless carpet of flickering neon and distant hums. The apex gleamed in the distance, a cold, unfeeling monument to Chrononet's power. The underbelly lay below, a dark, churning mass of shadows. And here, in the mid-levels, they were about to send a ripple through it all. They reached the top, the wind whipping around them, carrying the scent of rain and distant industrial fumes. The echoes had left a simple interface, a console of old, analog dials and flickering indicator lights, a stark contrast to the sleek digital interfaces of Chrononet. Elara connected her equipment, her fingers moving with practiced ease, the green glow of her microsensors a beacon in the gloom. "Ready?" Elara asked Kale, who stood beside her, her face grim but resolute. "Ready," Kale replied, her gaze fixed on the apex, a silent challenge. As the clock on the console clicked to 3 o'clock, Elara activated the broadcast. A low hum filled the air, not the broken data loop of Kale's memory, but a clear, resonant frequency. Risa's data log, amplified by Elara's tech and channeled through the Echo's hidden network, began to stream. It was a quiet, almost imperceptible wave of truth, spreading through the city's collective consciousness, bypassing Chrononet's filters, carried on the very air. It wasn't a loud explosion, not a sudden, dramatic unveiling. It was a whisper, amplified a million times over, a truth finding its way into the minds of millions, carried on the gentle, rhythmic hum of the city, on the soft patter of the rain. The city, in its restless sleep, was about to be awakened by a truth it had long forgotten, a truth that Elara, the dream weaver, and Kale, the awakened, were now determined to reveal. The hum of Viridia Prime, once a lullaby, now felt like the prelude to a storm, a quiet revolution beginning to stir beneath the neon glow. The rain continued to fall, washing over the chrome and concrete, cleansing the city, one drop of truth at a time.